And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special holiday edition of We of We Got Next. I'm Rickey Hampton, along with former Milwaukee Bucks center uh, Paul Mokeski. Although I think Mo wanted me to introduce him as former Milwaukee Bucks shooting guard because he had that jumper. He just didn't shoot it enough.
former Detroit Piston.
Absolutely, absolutely, and he's rocking his Pistons cap tonight. Now I'm just joking around with you, Mo. But how you doing, man?
Good, doing
Hey,
good. We got the NBA playoffs, but we also got the Golden Knights and the hockey playoffs here, so it's kind of exciting.
tell me how was that fitting in? You've lived all over the country and you know pro sports. How has Vegas accepted having a NHL team? How have they responded?
They sell out every game, so
That's
there you
good
go.
response.
Yeah, I mean, they're in their merchandise, the logo they put together, their merchandising is really on point. They've done a great job, and it really helped that the first two seasons they were here, they won. They went to the semifinals, and then they struggled the last couple of years, but they're back in it now in the finals. They got to get one more win, and they get to the Stanley Cup Finals. But yeah, I mean, it's big time. They saw a 20,000 seat arena every game. It's big time in Vegas.
Wow, that is crazy. That is crazy, and that's great for the NHL to penetrate that market like that. And you got the A's coming to town. You got the Raiders there, and you keep saying, and you've been on point with a lot of this stuff. It's only a matter of time before the National Basketball Association makes its way to Vegas.
Yeah, the NBA is not going to miss out on an opportunity in a market like Las Vegas. We got the Grand Prix coming in November. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. They're saying it's bigger than the Super Bowl. I mean, they're selling their last round of tickets for $5,000 to $6,000 a piece, and they're repaving a lot of the streets here in Vegas. The Grand Prix is going to actually go down the strip for about 5 blocks, and so Vegas is a market for all sports now.
And you got a WNBA franchise there, and they draw well. And what are you saying? They have just a tremendous practice facility.
Yeah, the Aces actually it's their opening night tomorrow, and they're getting their championship rings from last year. And Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, is the owner of the Aces, and he built an NBA level practice facility for them next to the Raiders practice facility. It will rival any NBA practice facility. It has everything: 2 courts, locker rooms, video room, theater room, players' lounge, everything. Offices. It's beautiful.
Wow. Hey, but let's get to some basketball. Last night, Boston went home, took care of business, had a really relatively easy win over the Miami Heat, 3-0, 3-1, 3-2. They still have a chance, Mo.
Yeah, I mean, we talked last week about momentum. Momentum in a 7-game series is huge, and that's why you can't let anybody off the hook. Back in the day, if you got a team down, you got to, take them out of the series as soon as possible. And whether Boston figured something out or just relaxed and played their game, I'll tell you one thing they figured out. They figured out that all year they relied on a really solid defense. I think they forgot about that in the first few games, and they're back on it now. Their defense is on point, and they got confidence. Miami, they had an injury to one of their players who couldn't play, and if you look at the Miami box score from last night, Butler had 14 and Bam had 16 and Strus had 3 and Martin had 14 and Robinson played well, but he had a lot of garbage points at the end. But you look at the Boston team, and Tatum did his 21 and 11. Brown had 21. Marcus Smart right there, he had 23. Came up big, knocked down, spot up jump shots, and then Derek White had 24. So they have 4 players that scored over 20 points. And early in the game, Horford was hit, I think, 2 or 3 threes that were key, and they got off to a great start. And the energy in the Garden, even though it's not the Garden anymore, it's just the Garden, but it was loud in there, and they were excited, and they're feeling good about their game now. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow back in Miami to see if they can duplicate that. I'm not, however. I do not think tomorrow is do or die for Miami because Boston is a average at best home team this year. So, even if Miami comes up short tomorrow night, there's no guarantee that just because Boston is going home, that they'll get that win in Game 7. But if you're Miami, you don't want to do that. You just want to end it tomorrow. And, Butler's been struggling a little bit. So, I heard someone say, if he just comes out and just is the regular player that he is, we'll be fine. So it's going to be an interesting game tomorrow for sure. And I think I watched the game, what's mind-boggling to me is it didn't affect them that much, but, Miami is playing a lot of zone defense now. And sometimes Boston struggles against it. They can't figure it out. They get confused. And to me, in this day and age, you're an NBA team and you can't deal with a zone and quite frankly, a pretty sloppy, average zone defense. I mean, there's something wrong.
Hey, but it seems like I see that quite a bit whenever teams go to it. Teams will go to it for a few minutes, even throughout the regular season. And for like 3 or 4 minutes, the other team looks befuddled. And I know these are NBA players. They should have a clear understanding of what to do.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the coaches don't put enough energy in the zone offense either. And the other thing is you can run man offense against zone defense. It works just as well. Players don't understand that, though. So that's the coach's problem. He needs to get that across, that if they go in the zone, this is what we're going to do. 1, 2, 3, here we go, no problem. Don't hesitate. And, I'm in probably the minority of saying I think the NBA should allow zone. Just like every other league in the world, high school, college, NCAA, FIBA, Olympics, you can play zone, straight up zone. So I don't understand why the NBA doesn't allow it because it'll hamper offense. I don't think so. If you have shooters like you have in the NBA and you spread the floor and you attack it the right way, you'll tear apart a zone anyway. And, people are out there going, well, you just said they play zone. Yeah, they play a modified zone because in the NBA you have a 3.9 second rule on defense. You can only be in the lane for 3.9 seconds if you're not guarding anybody. But it's a modified zone. In a regular zone, you can stand wherever the heck you want. And I think they should allow that in the NBA. And what it'll do is it'll force coaches and players to think of it differently. And you know what? It won't affect the game as much as it does now. But, that's just me.
Hey, Paul, after the game, Jimmy Butler says he guarantees that the Heat will win this series in advance.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, then if I'm a reporter, I'm going to ask him, so you have your mom put her house on it then. If you guarantee it, right? It's guaranteed. And we all know nothing in this life is guaranteed, by the way, except death and taxes, right? So, but that's okay. Your leader is guaranteeing that. The problem with that is that could be all right for Jimmy Butler because of his toughness and his competitiveness and his personality. You know who it might put a pressure on? Some of the other guys on his team that aren't so confident. Damn, he guaranteed a win. Now what do we do? So if it gets tight a little bit, that could affect some way that some of the other guys play at the end of the game. But, it shouldn't.
What is that psyche having won 3 games and then giving away 2? Had you ever played or coached in a situation like that where you were up big and they've made it interesting? You're still in charge, but it's interesting now.
Well, and when I was in Dallas early on, we played Portland when they had Scottie Pippen, and they had a good team. We were up 3-1, and they forced a game 7 that we won. But that was, and then my last year in Dallas, to this day, I can't get over it. We were up 2-0 against Miami, and defeated them handily. And then we went to Miami, and we lost 3 in Miami and 1 at home, 4 straight games. That was when the stupid league decided we're going to go two games and 3 on the road, and then 2. Stupidest thing ever. It cost me a championship ring. Because I believe, we went to Miami thinking we need to get 1 game. We almost got the first one, got blown out in the second, and blew the third. And we went home for game 6, and we had a little chance, but that was about it. But if it's supposed to be 2-2, 1-1-1, and if it was that, and Miami won 2, and it would have been 2-2 going back to Dallas, I guarantee we were a really good home team. We would have won game 5 and been up 3-2, and then would have won 6 or 7. But anyway, it's momentum. You think coaches get crazy. A team's up 20, no big problem, coach. Yeah, it is. Teams come back from 20, easy. And you're up, 2-0 or 3-0. Oh, no problem. Yeah, it can shift fast. And, the momentum's with Boston. No question. They beat them in Miami. They beat them at home pretty handily. Now they go back and try to do it again. So momentum's no joke.
Hey, interesting. When you scouted LeBron in Miami, this is during his.
No, he wasn't there yet.
Oh, okay.
It was Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Haslam, Posey. Yeah, he wasn't there yet.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you
they beat the Pistons. They beat the Pistons in the East Finals that year.
Right.
So I was going back and forth from Detroit to Miami scouting games.
So Mo, we've seen each other many times before we actually met each other, because I covered that series.
And quite frankly, when the coaching staff asked me, what team will we have a better chance of beating? I thought it was Miami. I thought Detroit. They had Tayshaun Prince. They had, I can't remember. They had
Chauncey, Rip, Ben,
Rashid. I saw tear up a team. So my thought was Detroit. Is good defensively and offensively are going to be a problem. Miami, I think we can beat at that point. And I was right for 2 games.
Yeah, and because was Shaquille still a prime player, or he was this?
Yeah, he was a starter, and Alonzo Mourning was his backup.
Dang.
Yeah, he was Dwayne Wade. It was Dwayne Wade's team, but Shaq was number 2 for sure. He was still a 20 and 10 guy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, and whoever comes. Denver has to be sitting home thinking, "Hey, come on, Boston, let's make this a 7-game series."
I don't know, not at all. It's the opposite.
They want Miami.
No, they want the series to be so. Number 1 with Miami, the thing that really hurt them last game is they had 16 turnovers and 15 assists. You can't win a game like that, right? But as far as Denver is going to possibly have 9 or 10 days off. That's too many. You get rusty, you get complacent. That's not good. At this point, if I was Denver, I would rather have that series be over. But you know what? I have to retract that because I think the game is already scheduled, right? Game 1 is already scheduled for next whatever. So, I guess at this point you do want it to go a couple more games. But you know what? Problem is then you're resting. You don't really want to practice hard because you don't want anybody to get hurt. So you're going to be out of game shape. You're going to be out of game toughness. And the other team, whoever it is, if they come to you uninjured for the most part, and they played like 2 or 3 days ago. They're going to be more ready than you are.
Yeah.
Those games scare me. Those
Yeah.
games where if it's Miami or Boston, they can go into Denver and steal game one because they're maybe a little complacent.
Game one is next Thursday, Mo.
Yeah,
Uh,
so if
June
it's over,
1st.
and it doesn't matter if it's over Saturday or Tuesday, right?
Right.
So I guess that, yeah, if you're Denver, because the game's already set, I would want them so if they play on Thursday, if there's a game 7 on Thursday, then they're gonna have to fly and get to you on Friday, right? Play Saturday or whatever that day is.
But who's a better matchup for them? I think they're better than both teams.
I think Boston's the better matchup. They're deeper. They have. I think either team is going to struggle with the Joker because of just like the Lakers, they don't have any size to guard the Joker. They don't have size, and by size I mean 6'11", 7 foot, 270 that can bump with them. He's going to make his threes and do all that stuff. But he's a problem when you let him bang down in the post and you're not big enough, and then he just scores over you like a little child. You could even see where Tristan Thompson, the Lakers played Tristan Thompson because Tristan banged with him because he has a little bolt to him. But if you're looking at Miami, Bam Adebayo, he can't bang with them, so they don't have anybody to match up there. Boston, even though they're playing Horford, who played really good against Embiid, right? Runner up to the MVP, big guy, and you also have Williams III, who is longer and a shot blocker. So I think Boston is a bigger threat to Denver than Miami.
Yeah, and you're right. I remember when the Nuggets played the Lakers, and they had Dwight Howard just got on his nerves, banged him around. He was not effective at all. And then they come in with JaVale McGee, who was even longer than Howard.
Yeah, and bigger.
Yeah.
They have some bulk to them. You can't. If you're so light that the Joker can just back you down and move you like a little China doll, you have no hope. I mean, he's tough enough to guard anyway. You know.
So teams in the West, you're in the front office mode, and you got a really good team. You have to try to build your team to find somebody to deal with him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I'm looking at next year and I know I got to beat Denver, it might not even be my starting center, right? My starting center could be whoever, could be Looney or whoever, I don't know, whatever. But I want a backup center like a Brook Lopez type. That's bigger, stronger, tougher, physical. So then I can go either way with that. So, as a coach, the more options you have on defense, the better off you are. So, yeah, if you're going to dethrone Denver, you better have somebody, at least one player on your team that can match him physically, for sure.
The great Bucks teams that you played on, you guys had to deal with Philly and Boston every year. Did you guys was that going on then? Did you look, okay, we know we're going to see these guys. What do we need to add to deal with a certain?
Well, that was out of my pay grade back then. But
well, I understand that. I understand.
So Boston had Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Larry Bird, 6'10", 7 foot, 7 foot, right? So when I was with the Bucks when I first got there, we had Bob Lanier, Harvey Catchings, myself, right? Then later on we had Randy Brewer, Alton Lister, myself, all 6'10", 6'11", and then later we had Jack Sikma and myself and Randy Brewer. So we had to battle that size. The problem we ran into was Philly. When we ran into Philly, Charles Barkley was the matchup nightmare. You could go, if you go small on him, he just post you up and treat you like a little child. But so you go big, I guarded Charles Barkley, but he could drive by me and run and beat me down the floor. So that matchup was a problem. And back then there was you couldn't go find somebody to match that up,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Uh, Very interesting, and we'll see. Yeah, that'll start next Thursday, and you think the Nuggets will beat whomever they see?
No, I think they beat Miami in a shorter series, but I think Boston, if they play right and they get past Miami, Boston can beat Denver. I think it's more of a toss up if it's Boston and Denver.
And what about playing it out in Denver with the altitude?
That helps Denver, as we saw with the Lakers. The Celtics are not an old team like the Lakers are, but they all are older. You have Horford, who's older, but then you got Williams, that he's healthy this year to back him up. Tatum and Brown are still, 27, 28, so they're not older. So, that altitude will affect you less. And the Celtics are way, way, way deeper than the Lakers were. Way deeper. And if you look at Denver, Denver plays six players, right? They just play six. They just play six players. They
Yeah,
play, you know, uh, Murray averages 41. The Joker averages 42. Michael Porter averages 38. Bruce Brown 38. Aaron Gordon averages almost 40, and Pope averages 28. Other than that, everybody else averages 15 or way less. So that's an advantage that a deeper team like Boston could have, even in the altitude in Denver.
yeah. Uh, let's move on a little bit more. John Morant's in the news again.
Mm.
Police did a wellness check on Ja, uh, and thank goodness he's okay after some stuff he posted on social media, and you know he needs to find a quiet space or something, Paul.
He needs help. To me, that's a cry for help. It's a and he tried to play it off of I was just talking about getting off social media. No, you didn't. If you did that, then why did you take it why did you take it down 10 minutes later?
Yeah,
Don't lie about it. And and for people out there that don't understand, my sons are in law enforcement, and no, some John Doe cannot make a welfare check and the police go check it out. That doesn't work that way. It has to be someone that's credible. It has to be a family member that makes that ask for a welfare check. It has to be someone from your employee. That would be the Memphis Grizzlies. They have a concern, or someone from the NBA. And the NBA and the Memphis Grizzlies are monitoring his Instagram. So, they made that welfare check. That's a serious thing. And thank goodness he's okay. But, the way he posted, love you, love you, love you, bye, after
yeah,
what's been going on, come on, man. And it's really sad because he's a young man, fantastic upside. He's already messed up being the face of the league for now. He's already messed up hundreds of millions of dollars in endorsements. He's already lied to the commissioner of the league by saying, "Hey, I know what it was. Never going to happen again." And 2 months later, he does a post holding a gun in a car. I don't care what JJ Redick says or anybody. It's not illegal. You need to look up your laws, by the way. The first one, in Denver at a nightclub, you're intoxicated and you brandish a firearm. That is against the law, by the way. And if you're in a vehicle traveling down the freeway and you brandish that firearm differently, that could be against the law. But besides that, the law doesn't matter. You already have a history with the league. They've already reprimanded you. You've already agreed to change, and now you went against that.
yeah,
My concern with John Morant is he's going to be suspended for 10 games, 20 games, half a season, whatever it is. It's going to be months. So what is he going to do? What's he going to do with his time? And the other thing is, John Morant, please reach out to somebody. If you don't feel comfortable with someone with your family, then reach out to someone with the Memphis Grizzlies. If you don't feel comfortable with your employee, don't blame you, reach out to the league. If you don't want to reach out to the league because it's an employee too, that's okay. Reach out to the Players Association. They have lawyers and they have help for you. And if you're not even feel secure with that, reach out to the Retired Players Association of the NBA. And there'll be people there that can help you, put you in the right direction. It could be former players that have been through stuff. It could be whatever you need, it'll be there. But you need to reach out. You need to be open to take that help and then become better. And guess what? If you do it the right way, this could be a great beginning of a story where the end is just as high as you ever thought it was going to be. But if you continue to mull around and keep doing what you're doing and doing silly stuff, your career and your life is not going to be nearly what it should be.
And you're right, Mo, because everybody loves a good comeback story.
Absolutely, but you have to realize you have a problem. You have to accept that and then ask for help and then really work on it.
Yeah.
Until you do that, there will not be another comeback story. And you're going to run out of times where you can say, I know what I did. It was wrong. It's not going to happen again. Trust me. And then 2 months later, do the same thing. Eventually, people are going to say, how can we believe what you just said? You just said it 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, strike two, if you're working on strike three and welfare check is not, that might have been a foul tip for you. But it's a sad story. And I would just hope that he reaches out. There's so many people that would help him. If it's John Lucas, if it's someone like that, if it's Carmelo Anthony, if John Morant's people would have half a brain, they would reach out to those type people and start talking to them and start that process yesterday. Don't wait.
But Mo, I think he said something earlier that is really going to be something that somebody's got to keep an eye on. When he's suspended and not playing, he's going to have a lot of free time on his hands.
Yep. I mean, that's a danger, and, what are you doing with your free time and who you listen to, who you're talking to? I mean, it's, we talk about giving young men, hundreds or tens and hundreds of millions, whatever, how dangerous it is with free time and not having experience with it. Now you got this is even 10 times worse than that. Please reach out to somebody and find the right people, listen to the right people. And I'm going to tell you this right now, if I was talking to them right now, whoever you think your friends are, they're not. I mean, whoever's posting those videos are not your friends. They're doing the opposite of that what friends should do. Give me your phone. Let's not do this. So whoever you think your friends are, your inner circle, they are messing you up and they're not your friends, man.
Yeah, that's well said, Mo. Hey, the other day, speaking of, I want to get a little bit into the coaching situations here. We got a coaching job open in Detroit, Milwaukee, Philly, Phoenix, and Toronto. And all these guys were let go. I mean, all these guys had good quality coaches there. Dwayne Casey in Detroit, Mike Budenholzer in Milwaukee, Doc Rivers in Philly, Monty Williams in Phoenix, Nick Nurse in Toronto. Just some quality coaches. All of them fired. And the other day, Larry Brown, the Hall of Fame coach, was talking, and it sounded like he'd been listening to We Got Next, because he was saying the same thing that you've been talking about for a while now, Mo, is how the players run the league.
Yeah, I mean, the players, like I've told you for years now, when there's a problem with a team, here's how it's handled. The first to go is assistant coaches. The second to go is the head coach. The third to go is the general manager, and the last to go is a player, unless he really messes up. And that's opposite of what used to happen. And that's what the NBA has become. I would say at least half or more of every NBA team, at least half or more of their players make more than their head coach. So that's problem number one. It is what it is. And now owners and general managers are now catering to star players. Whether it's Kevin, KD who wants to get traded, or Kyrie who wants to get traded, so they just trade him, or it's dream teams that are being made, or super teams, and players going everywhere. And if there's a struggle, and the owner and the general manager talk to the head top players or the coach, they're going to listen to the top players because they're more valuable to them than I mean, if Doc Rivers, Nick Nurse, Monty Williams, if those guys can get fired, Budenhauser, who won the NBA 2 years ago, right? If they can get fired, who else is vulnerable? You know who else is vulnerable? Boston might be open too if he doesn't win this series. So
Yeah.
But all those coaches that we just mentioned will probably end up on other teams, and the coaching carousel has a way of spinning around, and coaches ending up somewhere else. Doc Rivers maybe in Phoenix, Monty Williams maybe in Milwaukee, things like that. I think I'm on the short list for Detroit. We'll see later when they call me. But I
we
think
might get that desperate, Mo.
oh, wow.
Well, check this out. Let me read you this. This is Larry Brown. He was on a podcast on the Takeoff podcast with John Clark. So many young kids coming into the league now. And I look at the benches now and I see 15 people all dressed the same. It kind of troubles me. When I was starting out, you could really establish a relationship with players. Now it's different. I think so many people are looking out there to try and find somebody they think can communicate better with younger players. I don't buy it. I think a lot of people are afraid to coach these guys.
Yeah, for sure. It's been like that. Younger coaches, and I brought this up a couple of years ago, right? Here's a sign of players running the league, right? You see players on the bench now wearing bucket hats, backward hats, sunglasses, shorts, and tank tops. So that tells you that the players are running the league. Now, back in my day, you had to, if you weren't dressed out, you had to wear a blazer or something, and then it got to be like slacks or a nice shirt. So, I'm not talking about you have to wear a suit, but at the same point, you can't look at like you're on some frickin' beach somewhere wearing a bucket hat and sunglasses on an NBA bench. That's just ridiculous. I mean, come on, man. But that's a sign, right? Everything matters. That's a sign that, who else is afraid of the players? Adam Silver. He's afraid to say, hey, you got to dress appropriately on the bench, business attire, whatever. But, times change. But I do, like Larry, I think owners and general managers are looking for coaches that relate to the players on a more even field. However, I bet that players and young players would rather have Larry Brown or someone like that, Popovich, that helps them accountable and helps them to get better if it's done the right way. And I would, Popovich is a great example of doing it the right way, and players are children. Children need to be, and mostly want to be disciplined. They want to be told the right way.
Yeah, and this is Larry finishing it up, Mo. I look around the league now because players are making so much money that in a lot of cases, I think sometimes the players kind of run the team. And you can understand that. Guys making $40, $50 million, they're going to have some say. And I think of Nate McMillan is the example I always use, just enforcing a rule, and he's gone 2 weeks later in Atlanta.
Yeah, because it went against the star player, and that's sad, but that's the way it is. I mean, great players like Steph Curry. Steph Curry said, "I want players. I want a coach that's going to hold me accountable and help me get better." But a lot of players don't think that way anymore. So, I've been coaching a long time, and I used to tell people, back in the day, If a coach told me to run through a wall, I'd run through a wall. Whether that's right or wrong, that's just the way it was. When I was coaching, I always said, well, now if you're a coach and you ask a player to run through a wall, you got to tell them, you got to explain why. But that's just the way it is. I mean, and I don't see that getting much better in the future, right? Players are going to make more and more money. Players are making 30, 40, 50 million a year, but they're also making 100, 200 million in endorsements a year. So, and that's why you asked me what it takes to be a very good NBA coach. And, I say knowledge. You have to have the knowledge so players respect you, a demeanor with the players that you can hold them accountable. And, they have to let you coach them, and that's what it takes. And if you can get that, who has that right now? The Denver Nuggets. Just look at them. You got Joker, former MVP. You got Jamal Murray playing. You got all these players, and they listen to their coach. Their coach loves them. They love the coach, and they express that way. That's how it works. But guess what? If something didn't work out and the Joker went to the owner of the Denver Nuggets and said, "Listen, we need a new coach," it'd be a new coach the next day. I'm not saying that would happen. He's not that guy, but that's the way it goes.
Here in Detroit, about a month ago, AJ Hinch benched Javi Baez, the Tigers' star shortstop, and he benched him because he just made a couple of bonehead plays in the game. He took him out, and baseball, Mo, he took him out of the game during the game. And to Baez's credit, he said, "Man, I totally understood why he did it. He was right. I was loafing." And he's been batting about 300 ever since that happened. I think of the way he handled his situation and the way Trae Young responded. Oh, hell, this guy got to go. Now, Baez couldn't have the pull that Trae Young has. But nonetheless, I appreciate and respect the way he handled that situation and responded by playing some of his best baseball.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the right way. That's how to be a professional, and that's how you win. That's how you win, right? So, you have, and that's why I think the NBA a lot of NBA teams let themselves down in the draft process and the free agency process because they don't put that into considerations as much as they should. Shooting, ball handling, rebounding, arm span, vertical, all high on their priority list. What about basketball IQ and getting along with teammates and be ready to sacrifice for the team and to win? That's why I always told players in training camp, in the G League, I got 18 guys in camp. I get to keep 10 of them. 8 guys I send home, almost half. And I tell them at the beginning, listen, I'm not looking for the best 10 players. I'm not keeping the 10 best players. I'm keeping the 10 players that make us the best team. That's too different. You might be better than the guy I kept, but you don't work for the team as well as I want to fit in where I want you to fit in. So if players will realize that, then things are so much easier. But egos, money, pride, all that gets involved with players, and by the way, also coaches. By the way, and there's a way to approach players. Don Nelson, one of the greatest coaches ever. He told me one time when I started my coaching career, and I asked him a lot of questions. He said, "Mo, you got to know your team." So what do you mean, Coach? You got to know who you can kick in the ass to get better, and who you have to pat on the butt or the shoulder to get better. And you got to know those because that's how you got to treat. You got to treat different guys differently. If you scream at a guy that can't take it and needs encouragement more, he's going to get worse. And if you pat a guy in the back that needs to be kicked in the butt, he's going to get worse also. So you got to know that kind of the difference there of your team and your team makeup. And I think a lot of NBA teams these days don't put that into consideration nearly enough and how they blend together.
Yeah. Hey, Mo, we're going to get out of here. We got just a couple more minutes. I did want to ask you about LeBron's James' comments after Luke getting swept by the Nuggets. He talked about got a lot to think about over the summer. Is that just a guy talking, the emotions of losing a close game, or is that somebody, he's got some injury problems. Looks like he's going to have surgery. Is that something you think we should take seriously?
I think, it's after a game, you've been in the locker room, right? It always bothered me that, reporters would come up after a bad loss or the end of the season, and put a mic in your face. Hey, how do you feel now?
Yeah.
I feel like shit. That's how I feel. We just lost, and,
Yeah.
but you're trying to get an answer from him. But, and I think LeBron, I don't think he was lying. I think he responded to that question like, I got a lot to think about, which he does. But in no way do I think he's retiring. Depending on how what I would be concerned with is, I've had 4 foot surgeries, and if that foot surgery, and he's not back by training camp and going at least half speed and stuff, and it lingers all the way into a couple months of the season, that's a problem. That's a problem for the Lakers, and that's a problem for him, because I don't think he's going to retire. I think he wants to go out, and when he does, rightfully so, getting the accolades from other teams around the league, which he should, much like Larry Bird and Kareem and all those guys did. But the Lakers are the ones that have decisions to be made. I mean, first of all, LeBron, if he's coming back, he's coming back. He makes $46 million. You got to decide on AD, right? AD is going to make $40 million next year. So, I'm having a discussion with AD. Hey, we're going to rely on you even more. But you need to spend the next 3 months getting yourself in the physical condition where you can play all the games or close to all the games. And that means, maybe it's LeBron's training. You got to get stronger. You got to get your core stronger so you don't fall on the floor so much. Maybe you need to learn how to fall better so you don't get hurt when you fall. And you need to learn how to play with your arms out more so you get in the head as much. Stuff like that. And then, they only have like Vanderbilt, who's not guaranteed, but they have under contract. Harrison, Christie, these other guys, the guys that they don't have signed are very important. Mo Bamba, who didn't play, is supposed to be a great talent. He's scheduled to make $10 million. But guys like that, like this is the other thing that happens. Mo Bamba's contract is $10 million for next year. But on June 29th, if the Lakers don't guarantee it, he's a free agent. So that date comes in play for them. Then, you got restricted free agents in Austin Reeves and
Hachimura?
Hachimura. They're restricted free agents, and they're both going to make a lot of money, right? So you got to decide: do you want both of them? Do you want one of them? And then you got to decide what you're going to do with D'Angelo Russell, who didn't come through for you this year, and he made $31 million, by the way. And then you got Lonnie Walker, Schroeder, and Troy Brown that are free agents. So you got to decide what direction. I would sign Reeves. I would sign Hachimura. I would do AD and LeBron, and then look at some of the other guys. I would not bring D'Angelo Russell back. I would look at someone for my point guard position, that could fit that role a little better, make me stronger. I don't think it's time to blow up the Lakers. If LeBron retired, they would blow it up. But at this point, there's a lot of decisions to be made by the Lakers organization. But one of those decisions I do not believe is LeBron retiring. I don't think that's going to happen.
Hey, well, Mo, we're going to get out of here, man. We just wanted to get together and do a few minutes tonight before the holiday. We're going to take Monday off. We'll be back Wednesday, right, Mo?
Yeah, I think so.
And we'll be able to preview Game 1 of the finals on Wednesday. So until then, for my great friend Paul Mokeski, I'm Rick Hampton. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Peace, everybody.
Enjoy, man.